Rethinking gaming conventions, horses in 3D, and apparently blue is in this season. That's right, we are talking about Sarah Jessica Parker.
Wait, hold on, what about Zelda Wii U?
Oh hey, Commonwealth, so I'm guessing you want to chime in on this.
I'm just here to see you don't get too off topic in your videos. You barely analyzed information in your last video.
Ah, come on, you have to admit Link kinda looks like a girl.
Well, let's
talk about everything we know about Zelda Wii U. Alright, so before we get too deep in this video, I flipping love Majora's Mask 3D. Aside from some questionable design choices, mainly with the difficulty of the game, it is still a blast. But before we discuss more about that game, let's talk about Zelda Wii U. This particular game was first unveiled at E3 2014. Furthermore, Zelda producer Hyrulean elaborated on how we wanted to rethink Zelda conventions. In what way exactly? To be more non-linear and emphasize the open world. For example, the games Majora's Mask 3D and Link Between Worlds are excellent examples to this end.
What we can take from this information is the restructuring of dungeons and puzzles in the Zelda series. Furthermore, Aonuma has stated that he likes to mix and mash gameplay mechanics between multiple games he is developing.
Which does bring us a clue on how dungeons may play out in Zelda Wii U. I am pretty certain that like Link Between Worlds, the player does not have to play dungeons in a specific order, which is something I really enjoyed.
Not only that, Andy, but what about Majora's Mask?
Side quests, and lots of them. As most Zelda fans already know, is that Majora's Mask is just jam-packed with side quests. One of the biggest things I like about this game is that the overworld is so lively. You actually get to know the people you are saving, and of course, making their lives even more miserable. Satisfying.
Well, to add clarity to Andy's sadistic response, we can make a strong inference that Aonuma will be taking bits and pieces from Majora's Mask 3D and incorporate them in Zelda Wii U. For example, Aonuma already said he wanted Zelda U's world to be filled like never before. Likewise, you can say that Land of Termina is just filled with life in terms of helping out NPCs.
Not only that, but one of the biggest changes that is incorporated in Majora's Mask 3D is giving the Bomber's Notebook a greater role in the game. Seriously, this thing alerts me for just about everything short of when people are sneezing. A similar notebook or something of the sort may find itself in Zelda Wii U.
Yes, that's right. How else are you supposed to keep track of quests in this gigantic world of Zelda Wii U without the use of some quest tracker to keep up with it all?
Speaking about quest trackers, let's take a look at this recent interview from Hyrulean. When talking about how the map will be integrated with the Wii U gamepad, Aonuma compared this mechanic to exploring cities using his smartphone to navigate the environment. And which city is the likely choice? Well, Kyoto is the city where Nintendo's headquarters is located. In addition, Zelda Wii U's overworld has been compared to Kyoto an awful lot. Perhaps there is a connection here. Now put on your sunglasses, since we're going Inception in this game. Let's discuss the potential timeline placement of Zelda Wii U. Now I know this particular discussion has been done to death in the Zelda community, but we want to add some new things to the conversation.
Right, there are several theories roaming the internet. The biggest ones are the Skyward Sword sequel and the child timeline theory.
And this is where things get a little abridged.
How do you mean, Andy?
Well, in the Game Awards show, you can see a glimpse of this bridge in the distance. Now, does this seem familiar?
Yes, it does. This bridge does appear to look like the Great Bridge of Hylia from Twilight Princess. Coincidentally, this game takes place in the child timeline, roughly about 1 century after the events of Majora's Mask. Now, this means several things. If this bridge is indeed the Bridge of Hylia, then we can infer that this game takes place in the child timeline. The Great Bridge of Hylia did not exist during the events of Ocarina of Time, which has led us to the conclusion that this bridge must have been built sometime between the events of Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess.
And this bridge does not appear at all in the Fallen Hero timeline, and I doubt the bridge is even relevant in the adult timeline, considering the land of Hyrule is flooded there. So in other words, this essentially means that Zelda Wii U potentially could take place sometime in the child timeline.
Perhaps either before or after Twilight Princess. Also, there is another factor to consider. The Bridge of Hylia in Twilight Princess is in a poor state of condition, while in contrast in the Game Awards footage the bridge does appear to be in better shape. Could this mean Zelda Wii U takes place before Twilight Princess, when the bridge was still young, or did the bridge get some needed repairs?
Your guess is as good as mine, but what about the possible connection to Skyward Sword, specifically the Time Shift Stones? For those that don't know, these glowing bluish stones have the ability to manipulate time. In fact, Hyrule Historia hinted that the Ocarina of Time is indeed made out of this material.
Glowing blue aura. Now where have I seen that before?
Yep, the unique glowing blue arrowhead may utilize these stones as some sort of power source. What does this mean? Well, this can explain how Link is able to somehow slow down time when using arrows. However, I am not completely sure if that's the case, since we haven't seen Link pull off the same maneuver when not riding Epona. But moving on, these stones have powered up mechanized entities before. I present Skipper and Skirvo. These ancient robots in Skyward Sword are powered up by these stones and give off a bluish aura. Coincidentally enough, this blue aura is apparent in this mechanized beast in the first Zelda Wii U trailer. Is there a connection?
Perhaps. Now, using the information we have in regards to clues from the Bridge of Hylia in Twilight Princess and the Time Shift Stones in Ocarina of Time, where does that lead us to?
If we consider the Bridge of Hylia's condition and reference them in both Twilight Princess and potentially Zelda Wii U, I believe a reasonable assumption will lead us back to a placement in the child timeline.
And in regards to the Time Shift Stones, perhaps the technology of harnessing these stones were later revised in the time frame of Zelda Wii U's story. A great possibility to be sure, but ultimately we will have to wait and see what Zelda Wii U has to offer.
And if exploring the world with Sarah Jessica Park, Epona, wasn't enough for you, then let's talk about the gameplay. One thing I'm really curious about the game is the controls. Obviously, the same motion-controlled swordplay in Skyward Sword won't be returning in Zelda Wii U, since Aonuma is focusing mainly on the gamepad, but they are doing something rather interesting when it comes to aiming arrows.
With the Wii U gamepad gyroscope, the player can not only aim with the bow, but can look around. But hold on, this also seems familiar.
And you are correct. A similar form of using the gyroscope was implemented in Wind Waker HD, so we can definitely confirm that Aonuma, along with his development team, is deriving multiple different Zelda mechanics from past games they have developed alongside Zelda Wii U. For example, enemies now have health bars, something I reckon was carried over when Aonuma was supervising Hyrule Warriors.
Using that principle, it could be a possibility that some motion control aspects in Skyward Sword can make an appearance in Zelda Wii U. For example, the way the player controlled the Loftwing in terms of motion controls could influence some aspects of Zelda Wii U when it comes to motion controls. In addition, the way swimming is implemented in Skyward Sword could be reconfigured to be reintroduced in Zelda Wii U.
Hold on, if that's true, then Hero Mode may return.
Yes, there is a great possibility.
Hero Mode was first introduced in Skyward Sword and later was implemented in Wind Waker HD and Link Between Worlds. Have you guys caught it yet? Both Link Between Worlds and Wind Waker HD were both developed alongside Zelda Wii U. So in other words, we find it highly likely that Hero Mode or some kind of second quest of the sort will be making an appearance in Zelda Wii U.
Also, if I may add, Wind Waker HD included a very unique iteration of Hero Mode, where the player can switch on and off the feature if the game proves too challenging. Could this mechanic make its way to Zelda U? Also, there are some curiosities in the Game Awards trailer. For example, this green meter. It hasn't been revealed what this meter does. A likely assumption is that this bar is a magic meter. Perhaps Link's special blue arrow uses up magic. For example, in past Zelda games, magic is used up when firing enchanted arrows. Perhaps this mechanic will make a return.
Seriously, I would love to have fire and ice arrows to come back. Speaking of which, a familiar item is returning to Zelda Wii U, the sailcloth from Skyward Sword. This item gives the player the ability to safely glide from tall heights.
But what about the overworld? Just look at the map and the trailers. It's massive.
It is. Also, both IG Aonuma and Shigeru Miyamoto have clarified that the overworld in itself is like its own puzzle. To put it bluntly, the player will have to think about his journey, where he is going, how he's going to get there, and what the player is going to do on the way. And that's flipping insane if you ask me. But if there is such a large world, then how are they going to fill it up? In terms of content and gameplay, Link and Epona can't just roam the world all lonesome.
Well, while it is a really big map, if you look closely, you can see what could very well be town icons. The entire region of Hyrule as a result could be packed with these small villages and perhaps include large urban environments.
Speaking of the map, obviously you're going to need to travel with Epona during long periods of time. If that's the case, I wonder if the backpack shown on Epona will come in any use besides being cosmetic. Also, traditionally when riding Epona in past games, you can increase her top speed using these carrots or whip icons. However, in Zelda Wii U, these icons are not there. Is there a new way to ride Epona this time around? Perhaps Epona will have a much greater role in this game. Maybe Epona will be Link's true sidekick this time around, kind of like the King of Red Lions in Wind Waker.
The mare actually won't run into freeze, so we have at least that covered.
Great saying on Anuma's part, by the way. Moving on, let's discuss a really heated topic in Zelda fandom. Should Zelda Wii U incorporate voice acting? I have asked you guys in the past and there were mixed reactions. People gave the argument that voice acting would ruin the immersive style of Zelda and mimic the Zelda CDI games. But my boy, voice acting may work if it's done in an entirely new and unique language. Hyrulean.
Midna and Fi already have given good examples of what this can turn into. Personally, this could be a good way to implement voice acting to please both sides of the argument.
Now, with all the information we have discussed, let's attempt to fit the pieces together when determining Zelda Wii U story. It does seem that the overworld in Zelda Wii U is rather packed with enemy encounters and for the large part seems unsettled by any of the Hyrulean races, but a lot of wildlife is seen including these horses, goats, and deer.
In addition, if you would look at Link's shield, an eye symbol does appear. Will the Sheikah return in this game? Also, Link's gauntlets do appear reminiscent to some worn by the Gerudo tribe. Perhaps Link has done a bit of traveling in his days.
Also, if you would look at Link's scarf, this symbol is seen. I have done some serious research in trying to find any similarities with any other kind of symbols in the Zelda universe and found nothing. Closest thing I got to was a shield design in Majora's Mask. Wait a minute.
Majora's Mask 3D was being developed alongside Zelda Wii U, so it is conjecture to say some mechanics and inspirations made its way into the game. Perhaps these two symbols are related in some way.
A possibility to be sure. If we look at the timeline after the events of Majora's Mask, Link goes back into the Lost Woods to presumably continue his search for the fairy Navi. Eventually he turned into this hero shade guy, and what do you know, look at his shield.
A very similar design pattern is seen on both the hero's shade shield and Link's shield in Zelda Wii U.
Could this mean anything, or are we placing way too much effort into this? You decide. But what about all the other details, such as when Link slows down and goes Matrix all over his foes in arrow time?
Or what about the time shift stones? How do they fit into all of this? After all, the Ocarina of Time is hinted in being made out of this material.
Speaking of which, there could be connections between Majora's Mask and Zelda Wii U. Interestingly enough, when Ocarina of Time 3D was released, Skyward Sword was released later that year. Just like how Majora's Mask 3D has been released before Zelda Wii U. Coincidence? Regardless of all the speculation, what really excites me about this game is the enigma of the land of Hyrule, to the nostalgic feeling of riding on Epona in Hyrule, to the—
Hold on.
What is it?
Take a look at the map. Some sections in the Zelda Wii U map does bear a striking resemblance to Hyrule Field in Ocarina of Time.
You know, now that you mention it, there are some similarities between Zelda Wii U's map and past overworlds from prior Zelda games. Almost like the provinces are connected and fused somehow.
A fusion of the provinces. A Zelda fusion, but that's another video for another time.
So, it looks like I'm joining you on your channel, eh?
Seems that way.
Well then, if you like this video so far, then click here to see part 2 of this video. Well then, Commonwealth, care to send us off?
Sure, please like, comment and subscribe to our channels if you're new. Till then, this is the video of the day. Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to continue this discussion, then click here to see part 2 of this video. Till then, enjoy these moving links.